Welcome to Quick Sleep, a quiet place where stories come alive, just as your day winds down. Take a deep breath, let go of the noise, and allow your imagination to drift into a world of gentle tales and peaceful dreams. You're listening to Quick Sleep, bedtime stories to calm your mind. The origins of the Roman Empire are shrouded in myth and legend, with its roots tracing back to a small settlement on the banks of the Tiber River. According to traditional accounts, Rome's foundation dates to April 21, 753 BCE. One Romulus, one of two twin brothers raised by a she-wolf, established the city that would become the heart of an unprecedented civilization. This mythical beginning, while likely embellished through oral tradition, reflects the deep-seated belief among Romans that their destiny was divinely ordained, a conviction that would shape their governance, military campaigns, and cultural identity for centuries to come. Geographically situated at the crossroads of Europe, Africa, and Asia, ancient Rome occupied a strategic position that facilitated both defense and expansion. The 7 hills upon which the city was built provided natural fortification against invaders, while the Tiber River offered access to the Mediterranean Sea, establishing crucial trade routes with neighboring civilizations. This advantageous location enabled early Romans to develop sophisticated infrastructure systems, including aqueducts that brought fresh water from distant sources and roads that connected various parts of their growing territory. The social structure of early Roman society was complex and hierarchical, divided into distinct classes that defined citizens' rights and responsibilities. At the top stood the patricians, wealthy landowners who held most political power and served as priests, magistrates, and military leaders. Below them were the plebeians, comprising merchants, farmers, and craftsmen who, despite their numerical majority, initially had limited influence in government affairs. Over time, however, internal reforms and social movements gradually expanded plebeian rights, creating a more balanced republican system that would prove essential to Rome's future success. Roman culture distinguished itself through its practical approach to governance, legal systems, and civic responsibility. Unlike many contemporary civilizations that relied heavily on divine authority or hereditary rule, Romans developed a sophisticated system of checks and balances within their government. The Senate, composed primarily of former magistrates, advised elected officials and managed state affairs between terms. Magistrates, including consuls, praetors, and quaestors, were chosen annually through popular election, ensuring regular turnover of leadership and preventing the concentration of power in any single individual or family. Perhaps most significantly, the early Romans cultivated a unique combination of military prowess and administrative efficiency that would become hallmarks of their expanding empire. Their legions, organized into highly disciplined units, were renowned for their tactical innovations and engineering capabilities. Simultaneously, Roman administrators demonstrated remarkable skill in incorporating conquered territories into their growing sphere of influence. often granting citizenship or partial rights to newly acquired peoples rather than imposing direct control. This pragmatic approach to conquest and governance laid the groundwork for what would eventually become one of history's most extensive and enduring empires. As the Roman Republic expanded its influence throughout the Italian peninsula during the 4th and 3rd centuries BCE, it encountered numerous challenges that tested its military capabilities and political resolve. The Samnite Wars 33–390 BCE proved particularly significant, as these conflicts with the mountain-dwelling Samnites forced Rome to develop more sophisticated military strategies and infrastructure. The construction of the Appian Way, begun in 312 BCE, exemplified this evolution, serving not only as a vital supply route but also as a symbol of Roman engineering prowess and determination to maintain control over newly acquired territories. These early military campaigns revealed the effectiveness of Roman military organization and discipline. Unlike many contemporary armies that relied on seasonal warriors or mercenaries, Roman legions consisted of citizen soldiers who trained extensively and maintained strict adherence to military protocols. The manipular formation, introduced during this period, revolutionized battlefield tactics by allowing greater flexibility and adaptability compared to the traditional Greek phalanx. This innovation, combined with Rome's ability to sustain prolonged military campaigns through efficient logistics and supply chains, gave the Republic a decisive advantage over its rivals. The political landscape of early Rome was equally dynamic, characterized by constant negotiation between different social classes and political factions. The conflict of the orders 49–287 BCE represented a series of struggles between patricians and plebeians that ultimately led to significant constitutional reforms. The creation of the office of tribune of the plebs, the development of written law through the 12 Tables, and the gradual opening of higher offices to plebeians, all contributed to a more inclusive political system. These changes not only strengthened internal stability but also enhanced Rome's ability to manage conquered territories effectively, as they could offer potential allies participation in a political system that valued merit and service over mere birthright. By the end of the 3rd century BCE, Rome's military and political institutions had evolved into a formidable combination that would enable further expansion. The defeat of Carthage in the First Punic War 26–441 BCE marked a turning point, establishing Rome as a major naval power and demonstrating its capacity to project force beyond the Italian peninsula. This victory, achieved through relentless determination and innovative military adaptations, set the stage for Rome's transformation from a regional power into a Mediterranean empire. The transition from Roman Republic to empire represents one of history's most dramatic political transformations, centered around the figure of Gaius Octavius, later known as Augustus. Following Julius Caesar's assassination in 44 BCE, Rome plunged into a period of civil war that would last 15 years and reshape the very foundations of Roman governance. The Second Triumvirate, formed between Octavian, as he was then known, Mark Antony, and Lepidus, initially promised stability but quickly devolved into another power struggle. The decisive Battle of Actium in 31 BCE, where Octavian's forces defeated those of Antony and Cleopatra, marked the culmination of this conflict and established Octavian as the unchallenged master of Rome. Augustus's consolidation of power was masterfully executed through a series of calculated political maneuvers. Rather than declaring himself king, a title still reviled in Roman memory, he carefully crafted the image of restoring the Republic while simultaneously accumulating unprecedented authority. The title Augustus, meaning venerable or revered, bestowed by the Senate in 27 BCE, perfectly encapsulated this dual strategy. Through a combination of constitutional reforms, military reorganization, and strategic propaganda, Augustus created a new political framework that would endure for centuries. He retained the traditional republican offices while investing them with imperial authority, effectively transforming positions like consul and tribune into instruments of imperial control. The Pax Romana, or Roman peace, initiated by Augustus's reign, fundamentally altered the nature of Roman governance and military operations. Unlike previous periods characterized by constant warfare and political instability, the Pax Romana established a durable peace across the Mediterranean world. Augustus achieved this through several key measures. He professionalized the Roman army by instituting fixed terms of service and retirement benefits. He created a permanent standing army stationed along the empire's frontiers, and he established a network of provincial governors directly accountable to him. This systematic approach to administration ensured that local populations experienced stable governance and predictable taxation, fostering economic growth and cultural development throughout the empire. Under Augustus's rule, the Roman Empire underwent profound structural changes that reflected both his personal vision and the evolving needs of a vast, diverse dominion. He reorganized the provinces into senatorial and imperial categories, reserving the latter, typically frontier regions requiring military presence, for direct imperial control. This division allowed for more efficient administration while maintaining the appearance of shared governance with the Senate. Augustus also implemented comprehensive census-taking and tax reforms, creating a more accurate and reliable system of resource management. The establishment of the Praetorian Guard, an elite military force loyal directly to the emperor, further solidified imperial authority while providing a mechanism for rapid response to internal threats. The social and cultural fabric of Rome transformed dramatically under Augustus's leadership. His patronage of the arts and literature produced a golden age of Roman culture, with figures like Virgil, Horace, Horace, and Ovid, creating works that celebrated Roman values and imperial achievements. The emperor actively promoted traditional Roman virtues such as piety, family values, and civic responsibility through legislation and public monuments. The Forum of Augustus, completed in 2 BCE, served as a physical manifestation of these ideals, housing temples dedicated to Mars Ultor, Mars the Avenger, and showcasing statues of illustrious Romans from history. This architectural program, combined with extensive building projects throughout the empire, helped standardize Roman culture while accommodating local traditions. The legal and administrative reforms implemented during Augustus's reign established precedents that would guide imperial governance for centuries. He created a permanent bureaucracy staffed by freedmen and equestrians, developing a professional class of administrators who could efficiently manage the empire's affairs. The establishment of the cursus honorum course of offices was modified to reflect the new imperial reality, with traditional republican offices now serving as stepping stones to imperial service. Augustus also instituted a regular postal system and improved road networks, facilitating communication and movement across the vast empire. These infrastructural developments not only strengthened central control but also fostered greater economic integration and cultural exchange throughout Roman territories. Perhaps most significantly, Augustus's reign marked the emergence of a new political ideology that reconciled autocratic rule with traditional republican values. Through careful manipulation of religious symbolism, military triumphs, and public ceremonies, he cultivated the image of a restorer rather than destroyer of Roman traditions. The title princeps, first citizen, emphasized his primacy among equals rather than absolute dominance, while his adoption of the role of Pontifex Maximus, chief priest, reinforced the connection between political authority and religious legitimacy. This sophisticated blend of real power and symbolic restraint became the template for subsequent emperors, establishing patterns of governance that would persist until the empire's decline. The legacy of Augustus's transformation extended far beyond his lifetime, shaping the fundamental character of the Roman Empire for centuries to come. By creating a stable political framework, establishing efficient administrative systems, and promoting cultural unity while respecting regional diversity, he laid the foundation for the empire's long-term survival. The principles of centralized authority, balanced with local autonomy, professional military organization, and bureaucratic efficiency that emerged during his reign became defining features of Roman imperial government. Even after the fall of the Western Roman Empire, these institutional innovations continued to influence European political thought and practice, making Augustus's reign a pivotal moment in world history that transcended its immediate context. The first 2 centuries CE witnessed the Roman Empire reach its apogee, encompassing nearly 5 million square kilometers and governing approximately 60 million people across 3 continents. Under the stewardship of the 5 good emperors, Nerva, Trajan, Adrian, Antoninus Pius, and Marcus Aurelius, the empire achieved unprecedented levels of stability, prosperity, and cultural sophistication. This period, often referred to as the height of Roman civilization, saw the implementation of sophisticated administrative systems that integrated millions of diverse subjects into a cohesive imperial framework, while maintaining remarkable internal peace and security. The empire's territorial extent during this era stretched from Hadrian's Wall in northern Britain to the Euphrates River in the east, and from the Danube frontier in Central Europe to the Sahara Desert in North Africa. This vast domain was administered through a complex hierarchy of provinces, each categorized based on its strategic importance and level of Romanization. Senatorial provinces, primarily located in the western and southern regions, enjoyed relative autonomy under local aristocracies supervised by proconsuls appointed by the Senate. In contrast, imperial provinces, typically border regions requiring military presence, were governed by legates directly responsible to the emperor, ensuring tighter control over strategically vital areas. Economic prosperity flourished under the Pax Romana, as the second phase of Roman peace is sometimes called, a sophisticated monetary system centered around the gold aureus and silver denarius, facilitated commerce across the empire's extensive trade networks. Major cities like Rome, Alexandria, Antioch, and Carthage served as economic hubs, connected by an intricate web of roads totaling over 250,000 miles. The famous Via Appia, Via Egnatia, and other imperial highways enabled the rapid movement of goods, troops, and information, while maritime trade routes linked the Mediterranean basin with India and China through the Red Sea and Persian Gulf. This economic integration led to the development of specialized regional economies, with Egypt exporting grain, Gaul producing wine, and Spain supplying olive oil to markets throughout the empire. Social structures evolved significantly during this period, reflecting both Roman influence and local traditions. The concept of Roman citizenship expanded dramatically under Emperor Caracalla's Constitutio Antoniniana in 212 CE, granting citizenship to all free inhabitants of the empire. This unprecedented move transformed the nature of Roman identity, creating a more inclusive imperial society, while strengthening loyalty to the central government. Urban centers thrived with amphitheaters, baths, forums, and temples that standardized Roman culture while accommodating local customs. The municipal system, with its councils of decurions responsible for local administration and tax collection, created a middle tier of governance that bridged imperial authority and local communities. Cultural achievements during this golden age were extraordinary. Literature, philosophy, and science flourished under imperial patronage, with figures like Pliny the Elder, Tacitus, and Galen contributing monumental works that would influence Western thought for centuries. Architecture reached new heights with the construction of iconic structures such as the Pantheon, Trajan's Column, and the Colosseum, demonstrating advanced engineering techniques and artistic sophistication. The widespread adoption of concrete revolutionized construction methods, enabling the creation of massive vaulted spaces and enduring monuments that testified to Roman technical expertise and aesthetic sensibilities. Religious practices exhibited remarkable diversity and tolerance within the empire's borders, while traditional Roman state religion remained prominent, especially in military contexts. The period saw the flourishing of various mystery cults, philosophical schools, and Eastern religions. The worship of Isis, Mithras, and other deities gained popularity alongside Stoicism and Neoplatonism, creating a rich tapestry of spiritual and intellectual life. This religious pluralism, coupled with the empire's administrative efficiency, fostered an environment where different cultural traditions could coexist and influence each other, laying the groundwork for future syncretic developments in Mediterranean civilization. Military organization during this period represented the pinnacle of Roman military achievement. The professional army, consisting of approximately 300,000 soldiers, was structured into legions permanently stationed along the frontiers, supported by auxiliary units recruited from provincial populations. The elaborate system of fortifications, watchtowers, and signal stations along the Rhine, Danube, and eastern frontiers created a sophisticated early warning network that maintained border security. Military service became increasingly attractive to provincials, offering citizenship, land grants, and social mobility, thus integrating frontier populations into the imperial system, while providing a steady stream of recruits for the army. Infrastructure development reached unprecedented levels during this era, with aqueducts, bridges, and harbors constructed across the empire. The Aqua Claudia and Aqua Anio Novus brought fresh water to Rome from sources over 40 miles away, while the port of Ostia handled massive volumes of commercial traffic. The establishment of a regular postal service, cursus publicus, felicitated official communication, while lighthouses and navigational aids improved maritime safety. These interconnected systems of transportation, communication, and resource management created an integrated imperial economy that sustained urban centers and rural populations alike, demonstrating the sophisticated organizational capabilities of Roman administrators. Legal and judicial systems evolved to meet the needs of a vast, diverse empire. The development of Roman law, codified in various edicts and juristic writings, created a flexible yet consistent framework for resolving disputes and regulating social relations. Provincial governors operated under clear guidelines regarding jurisdiction and authority, while local courts handled minor matters according to Roman principles adapted to local conditions. This legal uniformity, combined with the empire's efficient administrative apparatus, helped maintain stability across diverse regions and cultures, contributing significantly to the longevity of Roman rule. The 3rd century CE marked a dramatic reversal of fortune for the Roman Empire, as multiple crises converged to challenge the stability achieved during the preceding 2 centuries. Economic turmoil emerged as perhaps the most pervasive threat, rooted in a complex web of interrelated factors. The debasement of currency, initiated gradually but accelerating dramatically during this period, undermined confidence in the monetary system, as successive emperors reduced the precious metal content of coins to fund military campaigns and appease restless legions. Inflation spiraled out of control. Prices for basic commodities increased exponentially, with wheat prices rising over 200 times their value from the early empire to the mid-3rd century. This economic instability rippled through society, eroding the purchasing power of both urban workers and rural peasants, leading to widespread social unrest and declining agricultural productivity. Political instability manifested in the phenomenon known as the Crisis of the 3rd Century, 2084 CE, during which Rome witnessed the succession of over 20 emperors, most meeting violent ends. The traditional mechanisms of imperial succession broke down, replaced by a cycle of military coups and civil wars. Legions stationed along the frontiers began proclaiming their commanders as emperors, leading to fragmented zones of control and competing claims to imperial authority. The assassination of Emperor Alexander Severus in 2035 CE marked the beginning of this tumultuous period, while the rise of barracks emperors, military leaders elevated by their troops, created a pattern of short, unstable regimes that struggled to maintain control over the vast empire. External pressures compounded these internal weaknesses, as waves of barbarian invasions tested the empire's defenses. The traditional Roman frontier system, designed to monitor and regulate movement rather than serve as an impenetrable barrier, proved inadequate against coordinated attacks from multiple directions. Gothic tribes crossed the Danube in increasing numbers, while Alemanni and Franks threatened the Rhine frontier. In the east, the Sassanid Persians emerged as a formidable rival, overthrowing the Parthian dynasty and launching aggressive campaigns that culminated in the capture of Emperor Valerian in 2060 CE, the first Roman emperor to be taken prisoner by a foreign power. These military defeats not only damaged Roman prestige but also exposed vulnerabilities in the empire's defensive network. Social unrest erupted across the empire as economic hardship and political uncertainty created fertile ground for rebellion. The Bei Godai, bands of rural insurgents, rose up in Gaul and Spain, attacking landowners and disrupting agricultural production. Meanwhile, urban centers faced declining populations as residents fled to rural areas or joined military formations for protection. The traditional Roman social order fractured, with the senatorial aristocracy losing influence and wealth, while military leaders gained disproportionate power. Religious tensions also intensified, as traditional Roman cult practices lost adherence to various mystery religions and emerging faiths, particularly Christianity, which many viewed with suspicion due to its refusal to participate in state-sponsored religious rituals. Administrative breakdown accompanied these crises, as the central government struggled to maintain control over distant provinces. Local elites, once pillars of Roman administration, found themselves increasingly isolated or complicit in regional power struggles. The efficient bureaucratic system developed during the High Empire deteriorated, with corruption becoming endemic and tax collection increasingly arbitrary. Frontier defenses weakened as troops were withdrawn to fight civil wars or protect the capital, leaving vulnerable sectors exposed to invasion. The division of the empire into multiple competing jurisdictions during periods of civil strife further complicated attempts to coordinate responses to external threats or implement economic reforms. Military challenges extended beyond barbarian invasions to include internal fragmentation of Roman forces. The traditional legionary system, once the backbone of Roman military power, gave way to smaller, more mobile field armies, commanded by rival claimants to imperial authority. Soldiers' loyalty shifted from the institution of the empire to individual generals who promised better pay and plunder. This erosion of military discipline coincided with declining recruitment from Italy and other core provinces, forcing reliance on barbarian recruits, whose allegiance to Rome was often questionable. The strategic depth that had characterized Roman military planning disappeared as resources were stretched thin across multiple fronts. leaving few reserves to respond to emergencies. Environmental factors exacerbated these crises, with evidence suggesting periods of climate change and epidemic disease during the 3rd century. Archaeological records indicate shifts in agricultural patterns, possibly related to changing weather patterns, while historical accounts document outbreaks of plague that further depleted population levels and disrupted economic activity. These environmental stresses, combined with human-induced crises, created a perfect storm of challenges that pushed the empire to the brink of collapse before the reforms of Diocletian and Constantine temporarily restored stability in the late 3rd and early 4th centuries. The final decades of the Western Roman Empire witnessed a cascade of events that irreversibly altered the course of European history. The year 410 CE marks a watershed moment with the Visigothic sack of Rome under Alaric, shattering the illusion of eternal imperial security. This unprecedented event, occurring barely 2 decades after Theodosius I's death in 3095 CE, the last emperor to rule a unified Roman Empire, exposed the vulnerability of Western Roman institutions. The division of imperial authority between Honorius in the west and Arcadius in the east had already strained administrative resources, but the Visigothic invasion revealed deeper systemic weaknesses that neither half of the empire could effectively address. The deposition of Romulus Augustus by Odoacer in 476 CE traditionally marks the end of the Western Roman Empire, though this date oversimplifies a more complex process of dissolution that unfolded over several generations. The period between 410 and 476 CE saw successive waves of barbarian migrations and settlements that transformed the political landscape of Western Europe. The Vandals, crossing from Spain into North Africa under Gazaric, established a powerful kingdom centered on Carthage by 4039 CE, severing vital grain supplies to Rome and establishing a formidable naval presence in the western Mediterranean. Meanwhile, the Huns under Attila launched devastating campaigns across Central Europe, forcing additional Germanic tribes to seek refuge within Roman borders. The transformation of Roman institutions during this period followed distinct patterns in different regions. In Gaul, the Visigoths established a kingdom that maintained many Roman administrative practices, while gradually assimilating Frankish elements. The Burgundians settled in the Rhone Valley, while the Franks consolidated power in northern Gaul. These successor states preserved certain aspects of Roman governance, particularly legal systems and ecclesiastical structures, while adapting others to accommodate Germanic customs and social organization. The preservation of Roman law, notably through the Breviary of Alaric, compiled in 506 CE, demonstrates how former barbarian adversaries came to value and maintain elements of Roman administrative heritage. Italy itself witnessed a complex sequence of occupations and power transitions. After Odoacer's brief rule, the Ostrogoths under Theodoric the Great established a sophisticated kingdom that attempted to bridge Roman and Germanic traditions. Theodoric's reign, 1493–52 CE, represented a remarkable experiment in multicultural governance, with Roman senators continuing to serve alongside Gothic administrators. However, The Byzantine reconquest under Justinian I in the mid-6th century, while briefly restoring imperial control, ultimately left Italy devastated and vulnerable to Lombard invasion in 56 CE. This final wave of Germanic settlement effectively ended any hope of reconstructing a unified Western Roman state. The Eastern Roman Empire, later known as Byzantium, played a crucial but ultimately limited role in preserving Roman continuity. While the eastern provinces maintained stronger economic foundations and more defensible borders, their ability to support the West diminished over time. The massive resources devoted to reconquering lost territories in the 6th century strained Byzantine finances and military capabilities, leaving the empire ill-prepared for future challenges from the Arab conquests. Thus, nevertheless, Constantinople remained a bastion of Roman culture and administrative practice, preserving legal codes, philosophical traditions, and theological debates that would profoundly influence both Islamic and Western European civilizations. The Church emerged as a crucial institution, bridging the transition from Roman to medieval European society. As secular authority fragmented, bishops and archbishops assumed increasing responsibility for local administration and conflict resolution. The papacy, particularly under figures like Pope Gregory the Great 1290-604 CE, developed into a power center that could negotiate with barbarian rulers while maintaining connections with Constantinople. Monastic communities preserved and copied classical texts, while Christian networks maintained communication and cultural exchange between former Roman provinces. This ecclesiastical infrastructure proved essential in transmitting Roman legal concepts, administrative practices, and cultural achievements to emerging European kingdoms. The linguistic and cultural transformation of the former Western Empire proceeded unevenly across different regions. In Italy and southern Gaul, Latin remained the dominant language of administration and culture, evolving gradually into Romance languages. Northern and eastern areas saw greater Germanic influence, though even here Roman elements persisted in legal systems and urban planning. The Carolingian Renaissance of the 8th and 9th centuries would later attempt to revive Roman administrative traditions and classical learning, demonstrating the enduring impact of Roman institutional memory. Archaeological evidence reveals a complex picture of continuity and change in former Roman territories. While many urban centers declined in size and complexity, others adapted to new circumstances by modifying Roman infrastructure for different uses. Aqueducts were repurposed, amphitheaters converted to fortifications, and basilicas transformed into churches. The persistence of Roman architectural techniques and building materials in early medieval constructions suggests that practical knowledge of Roman engineering continued to influence construction practices long after political authority had shifted. The transformation of military organization reflected broader changes in society and governance. The professional Roman army gave way to feudal arrangements where local lords maintained private militias in exchange for land tenure. Yet even these new military structures incorporated Roman elements, particularly in terms of fortification design and siege technology. The Notitia Dignitatum, a late Roman administrative document detailing military commands and fortifications, influenced early medieval approaches to defense and border management, demonstrating how Roman military knowledge continued to shape European strategic thinking. The legacy of the Roman Empire extends far beyond its temporal boundaries, permeating modern institutions, legal systems, and cultural expressions in ways both overt and subtle. Perhaps most significantly, Roman law forms the foundation of many contemporary legal frameworks, particularly in civil law jurisdictions. The Corpus Juris Civilis, compiled under Emperor Justinian I, continues to influence legal reasoning and terminology in nations across Europe, Latin America, and parts of Africa. Concepts such as habeas corpus, contract law, and property rights trace their intellectual lineage directly to Roman jurisprudence, while the principle of precedent, fundamental to common law systems, finds parallels in Roman legal practice. Modern legislative assemblies and representative bodies owe much to Roman republican institutions, particularly the Senate and popular assemblies, which pioneered systems of checks and balances and participatory governance. Architectural innovations developed by Roman engineers have shaped urban landscapes worldwide. The use of concrete, arches, and domes in construction remains evident in countless modern buildings, from government palaces to sports arenas. The grid system of urban planning, exemplified by Roman colonial cities, continues to inform modern city layouts, while infrastructure projects like aqueducts and roads have inspired contemporary water distribution networks and highway systems. The very vocabulary of architecture, words like atrium, basilica, and forum, bears witness to Roman influence on building types and functions that remain relevant today. Language serves as perhaps the most pervasive legacy of Roman civilization. The Romance languages, Italian, French, Spanish, Finnish, Portuguese, and Romanian, evolved directly from vulgar Latin spoken across the empire. Even non-Romance languages incorporate extensive Latin vocabulary, particularly in scientific, medical, and legal terminology. The Roman alphabet, adapted from Etruscan and Greek models, has become the writing system for approximately 9 billion people worldwide. Educational systems globally continue to teach Latin as a foundational element of linguistic and cultural heritage, while Roman literary forms, epic poetry, historical narrative, philosophical treatise, established genres that remain central to Western literary tradition. Modern democratic institutions bear the imprint of Roman political thought and practice. The separation of powers, bicameral legislative bodies, and term limits for elected officials all find antecedents in Roman governmental structures. The American founding fathers explicitly studied Roman republicanism when crafting the United States Constitution, drawing inspiration from Cincinnatus's example of civic virtue and the Roman Senate's deliberative functions. Contemporary notions of citizenship, civic duty, and public public service, resonate with Roman conceptions of civitas and res publica, emphasizing active participation in community governance and collective welfare. Cultural practices, inherited from Rome, continue to shape modern life. The organization of time through a 7-day week, with Saturday named after Saturn and Sunday after Sol Invictus, reflects Roman calendrical conventions. Architectural features such as public baths, theaters, and amphitheaters have evolved into modern recreational facilities. While retaining their essential social functions, the Roman emphasis on public spectacle and entertainment persists in contemporary mass media and sporting events. While the tradition of public monuments and commemorative statuary maintains its role in civic life, scientific and technological innovations developed during the Roman period laid groundwork for future advancements. Roman engineering principles, particularly in hydraulics and construction materials, anticipated modern civil engineering practices. The systematic approach to urban sanitation, exemplified by Rome's Cloaca Maxima, informs contemporary waste management systems. Agricultural techniques and crop rotation patterns established during the empire's height influenced agricultural practices well into the modern era, while Roman medical knowledge, particularly in surgery and pharmaceutical preparation, contributed to the development of modern medicine. The Roman Empire's impact on religious and philosophical thought remains profound. The spread of Christianity, facilitated by Roman infrastructure and administrative networks, transformed global religious landscapes, while adopting many Roman organizational principles. The synthesis of Greek philosophy with Roman practicality, exemplified in thinkers like Cicero and Seneca, shaped Western ethical and political thought. Modern concepts of justice, virtue, and civic responsibility frequently reference Roman philosophical discourse, while the Stoic emphasis on rationality and self-discipline continues to influence contemporary psychological and ethical frameworks. In examining the enduring influence of the Roman Empire, it becomes clear that its legacy represents not merely a historical curiosity, but a living tradition that continues to evolve and adapt to modern circumstances. From legal systems and architectural principles to linguistic heritage and political institutions, Roman contributions form the bedrock upon which much of modern civilization rests. The story of Rome's rise, zenith, and transformation serves not only as a testament to human achievement, but also as a cautionary tale about the complexities of power, governance, and cultural interaction. As contemporary societies grapple with questions of identity, governance, and global integration, the Roman experience offers valuable insights into the challenges and opportunities inherent in maintaining diverse, expansive civilizations.